Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ashley Brianna Eve, and today we are talking about Blake Lively on Seth Myers. We are going to revisit a couple of the points that I made in her secondary progression. So for those that are new, I'm not just a self-development strategist, but also an astrologer. And recently we talked about Blake Lively's secondary progression and her solar arc going into 2026. And it's interesting to see things already playing out how I predicted. I've already predicted and talked about her rebrand. We've gone over that more than I care to continue going over. She is rebranding. There's videos on it. But we did just literally days ago talk about her sun, her progressed sun, and her solar arc sun moving into Libra. And I had predicted some of these things. So we're going to talk about Blake Lively on Seth Myers. Number two, I want to let you guys know you had suggested and asked for a book club for members. And so it is here. I just posted a note in the community tab in your YouTube portal here. And for May, we are going to be doing The Third Perspective by Africa Brooke. It's one of my favorite books. Dust in my office from chickens. There's chickens in the other room. The Third Perspective by Africa Brooke, one of my favorite books. I'm going to be rereading it with you guys in May. And it's for all levels of members. And I'm just sorting out how I desire to organize the group calls for it. So again, check out your members tab for that. And the last thing I want to talk about is we are going to have a shift in content here. If you follow me on Instagram and X, you know that I've been talking about a lot of burnout in regards to not just this case because of Blake and Ryan, but genuinely and just being fully transparent, the vitriol within the community itself, even within Justice for Justin, people are attacking each other. The creators are attacking each other, but also just I'm going to be quite honest, it is heavy to always go to the comments of your video. And while I love this community and I love everyone that engages, it gets really heavy when it's constantly just like attacks on Blake and Ryan and really negative comments. So I really do overall want to make a shift on the channel. I have a video coming later today, which is going to be around Justin Baldoni and his ADHD and looking at it from a human design lens. And we're going to be shifting the tone because I don't think it's good for anyone's psyche to be just surrounded and immersed in like a high blood pressure negativity environment. It's not good for you. It's not good for creators. It's not good for anyone. And so I just want to be different and lead in a different way. Doesn't mean we're not covering stuff. We're going to continue to cover stuff, but it's just from a different perspective. And I just ask that the comments, it doesn't mean that you have to say positive things about Blake and Ryan. Of course, I'm not asking that. I am Team Justin. I have lots of videos talking about my theory on how they took over the movie, but just check, right? Because if you find that you're, surrounding yourself and immersing yourself with this case and all the negativity in this case and the horrible things that are being done in this case, just take a moment. Is it negatively impacting your mindset in other areas of life? Is it negatively impacting your nervous system in other areas of life? Some people are more tough and able to let it roll off their back, like water off a duck's back. And other people, it does start to seep in and really negatively impact you. So just be conscious of that during this case and how much you are consuming within this case. All right. With that said, we are going to dive in. We're going to play a couple clips from this interview on Seth Myers. I have a couple timestamps that I want to look at. And then we're going to look at her secondary progression. And I'm also pulling up her gene keys. I've been a gene keys guide for many years, trained by Richard Rudd at genekeys.com. I can drop a link into the show notes if you want to check it out. And I think it really provides some insights into Blake Lively. I do offer sessions around that, and I do offer private sessions around your secondary progressions and solar arc. So if that was of interest as well, I do have, I think, 4 sessions left for May. But let's dive in. Let's see what Blake had to say. Oh, Blakey. All right. Now, keeping in mind, I'll just do like a little bit a backtrack. I've been saying for a while now that she's doing a rebrand as the Every Woman rather than royalty. I also said when pictures came out about or from her in that black leather and black, I was like, oh my gosh, no. From a PR perspective, she needs to be in white and light colors. So here she is in like a cream dress, natural waves, right? It's not like a harsh look to her, softer makeup. She doesn't have all these rings and bracelets clanking everywhere. So that's very intentional right off the bat. But let's see what Blakey has to say.
Boys are crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it's good to have them first.
Yeah.
Because then when the girl shows up, you're like, oh, thank God.
No, my little boy's so romantic. When I walk in, he goes, Mama, my love. Oh, he's just like, oh, he's just a dream. I mean, like, they're chaos. It's chaos at all times.
Do you feel as though he was more loving than your daughters were at that age?
I think this was very intentional, talking about being a boy's mom, and whether her team did this or not because of what content creators are talking about. But you see a lot of content creators, so you can't take the brand strategist out of me, even though I'm moving away from it. You can't take the brand strategist out of me, but that's okay. A lot of content creators have been talking about, well, I'm a boy mom. This is why this is so important to me. I'm a boy mom, so this is why I'm vocal on the topic. So I really do think this was very intentional for Blake and her PR team of like, I'm a boy mom too, and that's why it's important to me, a PR approach.
Well, I know it's different. It's just different. Like he's just like announces that I'm the love of his life at all times, which is like just the best feeling in the world. So
That's
just
a
like
really nice feeling. Yeah.
I get dressed every day like a girl in middle school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope he thinks so. I hope he like, says something.
So we're going to go ahead just a little bit because I thought this was interesting. And I was like, but Blake, you've talked about your astrology before. Why are you seeing my videos on your Virgo stellium and you're like, shit, I need like a rebrand and I can't be a Virgo stellium? Like, is that what you're doing? Kind of tongue in cheek, of course, but
no. One of my daughters has the same birthday as Napoleon and Jennifer Lawrence. So if you imagine like those two blended.
Is that how it works? Is that how birthdays work? You blend?
I think so. I don't know. Because like I don't know a lot about star signs. I heard someone said the other day that if your son texts you and says like, Mom, I'm on a date. She's asking my star sign. What should I say? And the mom texts back, run.
What? You don't know much about star signs? You don't know anything about your star sign, Blake?
Like asking for like my address or my phone number or like my location share. Or I could just location share you and then we could I'm just curious about
social security number.
I'm a Virgo, so I'm like, are we talking logistics? Are we talking emotionally? Yeah, what's been beautiful about that?
I mean, she seems to understand what being a Virgo means. Where else does she talk about zodiac compatibility?
Zodiac signs. I'm a Virgo. What are you?
I'm a Libra.
Sagittarius. Oh yeah.
That is what my baby was supposed to be, but then she's a Capricorn.
Oh,
I think
she came late.
She came late. Yeah, a week late.
Sagittarius are great.
I mean, I also was like, oh, my back really hurts, but the baby's not coming out. Then I went to the doctor. I was like, my back really hurts.
And I think that was Blake that said Sag is great. Sagittarius is a great sign. Everyone's a great sign. I do love Sag energy though.
She was like, you're in labor. I was like,
oh, yeah.
Why didn't you realize it? I honestly, I don't know. Eventually the baby came out. I'm an Aries.
So, I mean, that's not saying that she is an astrologer, but it's just weird. Like that's that dishonesty piece where Blake tends to shoot herself in her foot because you start to match up what she's saying now versus what she said previously, and things just don't match up. And it's like, Blake, just be honest. Be honest. And then she talks about the highs and lows of the last year and how she wants to be a voice for women now. And this is exactly what I had predicted with her. Y'all, like astrology, this is why I will die on the hill of astrology. It tells you. And I predicted this because of her secondary progression and solar arc.
Yeah, I mean, what I can say without going too into it is that this year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life. And I see so many women around afraid to speak, especially right now, afraid to share their experiences. And fear is by design. It's what keeps us silent. But I
also don't think she has been silent. Blake, you went to the New York Times. How can you now argue that you've been silent? That is asinine.
Also acknowledge that many people don't have the opportunity to speak. So I do feel fortunate.
Yes, and you also had the opportunity to speak about domestic violence during the movie about domestic violence that you made into a rom-com.
that I've been able to. And it's the women who have had the ability to use their voice that's kept me strong and helped me in my belief in my fight for the world to be safer for women and girls. It's a pretty simple thing, but nothing. Thank you.
I mean, it's a rebrand. She did not talk about any of this. And no one can argue that, well, Blake was just doing what she was told for marketing of the movie. Her company ran the marketing for the movie. Her and Ryan's maximum effort. There's text messages where she says, we're the mafia. We've got it covered. Don't worry. That was her choice to market the movie in the way that she did, hers and Ryan's. Now, I do just want to go over to her secondary progression quick. So I have her secondary progression up here. And what we can see is, well, what you're used to seeing for Blake is Virgo stellium. She's a Virgo. She has been very honest about that. And I think proud, and as she should be, right? Like Virgo stelliums aren't bad. They're shadows to everyone. There is no sign. There is no human design. There is no house that is inherently bad. There's no planet that is inherently bad. There's nothing that's inherently bad. Everyone has the potential to express a shadow. And one of the things I say a lot as well is there can be a repressed version of the shadow or reactive version of the shadow. And I really believe that Blake is in the reactive version of her shadow and we're going to see this in Gene Keys. I want to touch on Gene Keys really quick, which is going to, again, underscore what's going on here. She's this dishonesty, like reacting to things and weaving these stories and out there taking control and all those things are very Virgo energy in the shadow, in the reactive shadow. Yet, where I think a lot of people get stuck is they go, well, I'm not like that. I am so far on the other side. And then as you hear a Virgo talk about being so far on the other side, well, they're a people pleaser. They're not standing their ground. They're not speaking up. They're not defending their boundaries. They're, you know what I mean? Like there's the repressive as well. And that is also a shadow. And I think where a lot of people get stuck is they think the repressive side is actually the true use of their energy. And then they wonder why they're burning out. There is a shadow on both sides. And then somewhere in the muddy middle is where you exist. No expression is going to be the same for everyone. And of course, it's always going to depend what else is going on in your chart. There's never going to be a paintbrush stroke that you can put over and say, well, just because she's a Virgo sun. Yes, a Virgo sun is going to be analytical, very does like control, a little bit of a perfectionist, really paying attention to details. So that's where you see her. And that's why I don't believe she doesn't know anything about her astrology. Blake, you're lying. You're being dishonest. Because she says, I'm a Virgo. So, are you talking like emotionally? You're talking location. That is a Virgo mind of like, but what are the details? I need the details. I need to analyze it. The mind of a Virgo's kind of always cataloging data and looking for data and going into research. It's kind of like a puzzle that the mind of the Virgo is always putting together. But again, that can be in the shadow from a repressed or a reactive state as well. For example, a lot of people also see perfectionism as a positive trait. Perfectionism is, it's not necessarily a positive trait because what often people associate with perfectionism is overwhelm, not taking action, putting things off, over analyzing, et cetera, et cetera. That is a shadow of Virgo, right? So I think sometimes when we really realize that some of the traits that we think are just who we are because of our sun sign are actually shadows being expressed, not from a place of shame, not from a place of guilt, not from a place of now you have to beat yourself up. 1 second, the dogs are barking. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. Dogs. So when we can honestly and have that self-honesty and radical self-honesty where we're holding our feet to the fire and we're really looking ourselves in the eyes about our shadow patterns, that's where real change happens. Now we're getting into a little bit of spirituality, self-development talk here before we get into our chart. But a lot of people want the external changes without doing the internal work. So they go, well, that's just who I am. I'm a Virgo. That's just who I am. This is my rising sign. This is my moon. This is my human design. That's just who I am. And it's like, yeah, but I thought you wanted different. I thought you weren't actually happy with what you have. And what you have now is a direct result of who you be. So if you want something different, you have to be someone different in the now. And you have to reframe and relook at how you identify yourself. Nothing on the external changes until it changes internally. But a lot of people, and I've seen it because I've worked I've worked in astrology my whole life. It's just something I was naturally drawn to. But my degree in education was in psychology. And I've been in business in terms of combining positive psychology with the spiritual aspects of human design and astrology for about 6 years online. I've had thousands of people sit in front of me. And over and over and over again, I can tell you the people that do not change their lives are the ones that come into a session and they're like, you tell me what I have to do. And I'll say, well, what I'm going to do is tell you who you're meant to be. And when you accept who you're meant to be and you have radical honesty about your shadow patterns and how they're keeping you stuck, that's when the external world is going to change. And that's why I love in the predictive astrology sessions, why we do the secondary progression first, which is more of how you see yourself, how others see you, your internal world. And then we get into the solar arc. Because what does it matter if you're meant to be on stages? What does it matter if you're meant to write a book? What does it matter if you're meant to change your life? What does it matter if something big is happening in your life? If you don't change on the inside, that shit's not coming true on the outside. You're not handed anything. You're not guaranteed anything. Things aren't your birthright. So it's this willingness to really look at, where am I keeping myself stuck based on my identities? Your internal world changes the external world. And for someone like Blake, for example, if she's not willing to see how her shadows of dishonesty and control and manipulation of that Virgo stellium are controlling her life and taking her off track and causing her the problems that she is currently experiencing and seeing, if she's not willing to look at that, she's not willing to look at that. And no one on the external world or no branding will stick long term. Nothing will stick long term. You have to change on the inside. And that's where I think a lot of celebrities are missing it in their PR and their branding is be authentic, be who you are, admit you messed up, admit you're human. People are typically more willing to see you and support you when you admit you're human rather than just like continuing to bulldoze. But anyway, let's have a look at her chart here. Now, we've talked about this previously. And this is her secondary progression on the outside and her natal chart on the inside. And the main piece, like you can watch her secondary progression video I did, but the main piece that we're looking at here is her sun has moved into, it was in the first house, identity. She really identified with the shadow of the Virgo stellium. And it's moved into the third house, communication, Libra. This is going to be a significant shift in her life. It's going to show more seeking balance and harmony, emphasis on the role that she plays in other people's lives. She's really going to see herself through others, through the eyes of others, which can be negative, of course, in this day and age. And I think she's been in the shadow for so long that when she started to see herself through the eyes of the public, when the public was like, you are lying and this is who you are, she could not see that. She was like, no, it has to be a smear campaign because that's not who I am. There's no way the public sees me like that. So when we're looking at that third house and the sun moving into Libra energy, this is, and I had said this previously in her other video, I believe there is two paths for Blake in 2025 to 2026. Number one was stepping into the philanthropist role, stepping into an advocacy role, really leveraging, and I said this in the video, this isn't just because of the Seth Myers interview, really leveraging the opportunity that It Ends With Us brought her and potentially even like learning from Justin and them, talking about spirituality together and self-growth and self-development and all of that together. There was an opportunity here naturally, because remember, this is the internal world, justice, harmony, peace, balance. There was a real opportunity and values. Her Venus is also in third house Libra. There was a real opportunity for her here, I believe, to naturally have stepped into the role of advocate, to naturally have stepped into the role of public speaker and the voice for those that have been abused. But because she was dishonest, because she was holding on to control, because she was operating from a place of superficiality and victimization, she created chaos around her. And it's almost, I feel like, this addiction to the addiction to being seen in a certain way, the addiction to the spotlight, the addiction to all of it, right? And we're going to see this in her gene keys because she could not just shift, see herself in a different light, release what needed to be let go of. She's in the shadow of it. And I do believe in what we see so often, in Ra Uru and Human Design talks about this as well, is like, we feel when shifts are coming. Like, we know the path we're meant to be on. We truly do. And I believe that. I've seen thousands of people, and 9.999 times out of 10, people come to me and they're like, something is shifting. Like, I feel something is shifting. That's why I'm here. We feel something shifting. And I do believe that she felt something was shifting. Maybe even that's why she took the role in It Ends With Us, potentially. That, her life path was taking a little bit of a different turn. But the problem is she went about it through the shadow. And because she went about it through the shadow, she's trying to do this new era of her life of justice and new set of values and harmony and peace, and really seeing herself, through the eyes of those that she identifies as. Maybe, I don't think she even identifies herself as an SH victim or anything, but in her head, maybe she does. There's a lot of people that they convince themselves of the stories they tell. But because she's done it through the shadow, it's not going well. And it feels contrived because it is. It feels like marketing because it is. And it's not like she's just on a separate life path than the one that she was meant to be on this year. And then we look at her solar arc, and let's pull that up next. Well, look at that. Her Virgo stellium. What's going on in third house? Stellium in the third house. Libra. Look at all the energy there. We have Mars, we have the sun, we have Venus, we have Mercury, we have the moon. A lot of energy. Now, the moon in this position can bring a lot of challenges in this new phase. Like, finding the balance can be very challenging. And I think it's amplified because of what she's essentially done to herself in this phase, if I'm going to be honest. But when we're looking at the Virgo stellium moving into a Libra stellium in the third house, at the end of the day, she was meant to be in a phase of her life where she's bringing forward Libra's values. I'm a Libra. And while I could be very spicy at times, at the end of the day, I definitely am a Libra. At the end of the day, I definitely am someone that's like harmony, balance, diplomacy, justice. That's just who I am. So she's meant to be moving into this Libra energy, especially because third house around communication. You could even argue short journeys. Maybe short journeys, you could almost argue being on stages, speaking about this as a victim advocate. This is the direction she was meant to be going. And also with interactions with neighbors can be a big one in the Libra stellium third house. But it's a powerful life purpose that's coming into place where she's mastering that balance, mastering the relationships in her life, mastering communication in regards to harmony, balance, and diplomacy, philanthropy. And again, because she's gone about it the wrong way, it's just not going to work. And there is a potential, and I said this before from a PR perspective, if she sticks with it and she focuses on, I know no one likes to hear this, but she focuses on the audiences that aren't following the case, and she's careful about her PR tactics, and she's careful about the steps she's taking, there is a world where she overall survives this in terms of her career. But I do wonder if she does take a shift, because she would have been taking a shift either way. There's a lot in her solar arc that says that she had been previously doing something that she wasn't really led up by, which we saw her say, like, I'm hired as an actress and I pull the rugs. I'm not really fulfilled as an actress. I want authorship. We've seen her say that. And so I think either way in this year, 2025 to 2026, there was going to be a shift. There was going to be a shift either way for Blake. But again, because she went through it in the shadow, it is not how it was initially meant to go, not what her soul contract would have been if she had gone about it the right way. Now, I want to just bring up her gene keys briefly. I know a lot of the community is brand new to gene keys. I'll put some information. If you want to book a call, it's in the show notes. I have different services, whether you're looking for human design, a human design session, an astrology session, gene keys, or I have 2 types of predictive sessions, which is the one astrology, which is going to be your secondary progression as well as your solar arc. And I also have your Uranus opposition. So if you're about, I'd say 39 plus, and you're looking at the second half of your life, your purpose changes and the trajectory of your life changes in the second part of your life. I have Uranus opposition calls for that. But let's flip over to gene keys. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much with gene keys in this video. But one thing I want to really point out to everyone is that when we're looking at Blake Lively's chart, this is her full profile. One of the things that really stands out for me is the theme of when she's in the shadow of dishonesty, victimization. Dishonesty shows up twice, 3 times. We see dishonesty 3 times. We see chaos in her pearl, so that her pearl would be the chaos that she creates around her. I don't want to get too much into what they mean, so I'm trying to be very cautious here so I don't lose you guys. But it's the shadow, right? Chaos in terms of business and prosperity. Anything that's in blue or half blue is going to be business, prosperity, money, branding. So she creates chaos when she's in the shadow. We have victimization as a shadow. We have dullness as a shadow, superficiality as a shadow instead of presence, which would be her city, the highest expression of her radiance. She has addiction and her spiritual intelligence rather than silence, which is her city. It's like the highest. We have our shadow at the bottom, your gift in the middle, and your city, which is going to be like not city as C-I-T-Y. C-I-T-Y is city. City is S-I-D-H-H-I. Probably pronounced or spelt that wrong, but that type of city is what we're looking at. It is the exalted state, highest expression of the energy for her. Her life work, shadows dishonesty. The city is transparency. Where else do we have shadows? So addiction comes up twice. We have addiction in her spiritual intelligence and in her attraction sphere. Her purpose, the shadow's force. So this is what I mean when I talk about culture agitation. When I talk about Blake being in the shadow, I think this more than anything probably shows us, there we go, shows us the shadow of Blake in a very simple map. In the shadow, she's dishonest. In the shadow, she's playing the victim. In the shadow, she's creating chaos around her. She's focused on superficiality and this addiction of power, this addiction of control, and she's forcing. Now, each number means something very specific, but just as a general overview, that would be what her chart is and where she's in the shadow, how she's creating a life that like ultimately isn't how it's meant to go. I've said this previously. This is not how it was meant to go for Blake. This is not how it's meant to go. And the interesting thing when we look at her gene key life work 59.2, the 2 is the dancer. Like things are meant to look easy, but because she's so dishonest, it doesn't look easy. It looks incredibly forceful. She's meant to do things that are easy for her. And I don't think acting's easy for her. I genuinely don't. I don't think that was meant to be her life path. And so the more she forces, the more she's doing things that don't come naturally, and it doesn't mean she needs to be a dancer. It's an archetype of the dancer. You watch like a beautiful dancer and they just flow through life, right? They naturally move with the energy. That's definitely not what Blake's doing. When we also look at the life work, there is, I know this could be hard to believe when you know everything that's going on. There is a life purpose, a life work of her being deeply connected to the work she does. Again, I think that's where a lot of that agitation's coming out for her. When we look at the agitation of her culture, the shadows agitation, I think that's where a lot of the agitation comes from, is she knows that she's meant to like be deeply connected to her work and the work she does, like do what you love what you do. But I really don't believe, even based on her own words, she enjoys being an actress. And so that can create that agitation, which furthers the shadow, furthers the frustration from her human design chart. And her work's meant to break down barriers between people. Yeah. Her gift can only truly develop if she's the example of brace yourselves. Sit down. You're going to want to sit down before I say these next words. Her purpose, her role in life, are you sitting? Take a deep breath. Can only completely develop if she is a role model for honesty and transparency. Yeah. And the more she holds back from others, the more uncomfortable and unaligned her life will become. So when we're looking at the question for someone with a life work of 59.2 that I would bring a client is, well, if you're meeting resistance, so say a coworker, say your spouse, say a friend, if you're meeting resistance with someone in your life, for her, it could be her audience. It could genuinely be her audience. If you're meeting that kind of resistance with people in your life, you have to ask yourself, what am I hiding from this person? If you own it, whatever it is, and you express it openly, the resistance will disappear. And then you start to build your entire life based on that single gift. Now, another thing I want to mention, which is kind of just, funny, but I'm going to mention it. So her radiance is 20.4. And with 20.4, there is a really big need to be very physically active. And if you're not physically active, that can be part of the agitation and shadow that develops as well. And so this is a client where I'd have them in CrossFit or something. Honestly, training for a marathon, you want to work out that energy so it's not being funneled somewhere inappropriate. Physical movement is the very best way for this person to get out of their head, to get out of the shadow and enter a deeper state, like deeper connection to soul, deeper connection to intuition, deeper connection to higher purpose. So this person, I don't know, if Blake doesn't work out hard, I'd have her going to CrossFit or very intense. And I also have, believe it or not, background as a personal trainer for over 15 years and holistic nutritionist. I'm a 6 line. If that means anything to you from human design, I'm a 6 line. I have trialed and errored it all. But this is someone 100% gene key 20 for radiance. You need to work out. You need to move your body. So for someone like her, if she was a client, again, a reflection point would be, if you find yourself worrying, if you find yourself over analyzing, if you find yourself falling into the shadow of, perfectionism and control of that Virgo stellium, how can you move your body? Find some way to move the energy and get yourself out of your head. So again, she'd be someone that she'd be in a tough workout program. But anyway, that's all I want to say about her gene keys, because I do think it gives us that grounding point to understand her on a deeper level. Understanding her on a deeper level doesn't mean that we now excuse what she's done. That's not what it's about. I like to use pop culture as well as a way for us to do our own inner work and be like, where am I in the shadow? One of the most dangerous places to be is for anyone to say, no, I'm perfectly aligned. Everything's good. What do you mean shadow? I don't have a shadow. And I've had people get on calls before and they're like, I'm not like her or I'm not like him because I'm using it properly. And that concerns me more. If I have a client get on a call and be like, I'm not like that crazy bitch and I'm not like that person because I use it properly. We all have shadows. The denial of the shadow is one of the most dangerous places to be, which I also believe Blake is in the denial of her shadow. But the denial of your shadow, when you are like, I will die on the hill of I am perfect. I've got it together. I remember years and years ago, I'm going to tell you guys a story and then let you go. Years and years ago, when I was first in the spiritual space, there was this big push that you would just learn your human design. This was not a push that Ra Uru had ever promoted, who is the founder of human design. There was this big push that, you learn your human design and overnight it's like, ah! Sorry, just your dog's probably screeching now, but the heavens part, the sun shines down, and you are enlightened just by learning the information. There, The reality is, and something Rahu was always honest about, is there's, when we get this information at 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, girl, I'm sorry, but you have shadows. We all have shadows. Stop denying them. And it's a forever revealing the next layer. You're never done the work, right? You're never done the work. You're never perfect. That is the whole point of my channel, is you are never perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You are always learning. You are always growing. You are always evolving and transforming and shedding layers and shedding masks and coming back to who you always were. So back then, there was this big push, and my brand was always authenticity. I am not perfect. I'm going to mess up. It is just what it is. And I'll never forget, this community had tried to take me down and cancel me, and they would make these fake accounts. And this one person had made a fake account, and she's like, oh, you think you're so good, but you're in the not self. Like, the not self is the shadow in human design. And I'm like, one, how would you know? Because you're not me, and you're not my mentor or coach or anyone. Like, you're just some rando that's trying to cancel me because I called out some shady ass practices in the industry. And two, who gives a shit? Yeah. Everyone's going to be in the shadow. Everyone's going to be reactive at times. Everyone's going to go into repressive patterns at times. We're going to go into dysfunctional patterns at times. Our nervous system will go into dysfunctional patterns at times that don't best serve us. So, who cares? I'm more concerned if someone gets in front of me and they're like, I'm perfect. I'm more concerned and less likely to take that person on as a long-term client because they're not open to hearing anything. No matter what I tell them, someone that's stuck, and Blake would be like this, I imagine, stuck in that, like, it's not, no, I'm not being the victim. I'm not being dishonest. I don't have an addiction, a drama. Am I the drama? Is it me? Yes, Blake, the drama is you. I wasn't using force. I'm not creating chaos. It's everyone else's fault. That can show up in a lot of ways for people. And I won't take those clients on because they are the hardest to help. Whether they're in the repressive state or reactive state, when they're on I will die on the hill that this is who I am and this is exactly how I'm meant to operate, well, then how are you trying to change something externally? In your forever wisdom, because you just said on your intake form that shit's not going your way and shit's not going right and it's falling apart, but you don't want to change anything internally. So let me know how things externally are supposed to change. Yeah. You're perfect. You're doing everything right. You're not in the shadow. You don't have shadows. So how are you supposed to change anything externally? Our external world changes by first changing our internal world. And that's my message to Blake if she was ever to see this, but it's also my message to you, to anyone that's watching. I really believe in we're exactly where we're meant to be. So anyone that's watching this is meant to see that message. Our external world changes first by changing our internal world. You will never change your habits, your behaviors, your external environment, your bank account, your relationships until you change internally. And this is what Gene Keys teaches us as well. She needs to move up into the gift first, do the work of contemplation into the gift, and then into the city. And if she does that work, that's where things will actually start to shift, and it will be an authentic shift with the public. It's not going to be a PR move, but she has to be willing to see those shadows first. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to book your own private session, you can in the comments. And for those, again, that are in the membership, both tiers, we are going to be looking at the third perspective this month. So make sure to grab your book. It's Africa Brooke. She is fantastic. She's wonderful. She talks a lot about censorship, self-censorship in an age of cancel culture. And the book is all about brave expression in the age of intolerance. You don't have to be a YouTuber. You don't have to be a business owner. It's all about, like, overall, I feel while cancel culture has subsided in many ways, we are still in an age of intolerance. And I think it's just such a beautiful book of navigating bold expression and brave expression at this time. So we're going to look into that book. We're going to be reading that book. I'm going to be reading it with you. And stay tuned to the community tab because I'm also exploring the potential for like a Voxer chat for book club or a Facebook group for the members for book club. Those tend to be very energy intensive. So I am still contemplating it. And we will have 2 calls a month to go over the book. So I think that's one book a month is reasonable. By halfway point of the month, you're halfway point through the book. Maybe you've already finished it, but I think it's a reasonable book per month, 2 calls, potentially a closed group. But leave a comment if you are a member in the community tab on that post, and we can discuss the community group support of it as well. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please share it with someone that needs to hear this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.